Well, hello, friends. I've just received access to the Azure OpenAI service and was thinking that perhaps we should integrate something with it. My idea is just to try it out and create a small CLI program that can take a prompt. So we write something, let's say, ask the OpenAI model to translate something or just answer a question, and we receive a response. I have no idea how to do that yet, so let's see if we can do that together. I've, as a good TV cook, I've prepared just a boilerplate code that hopefully helps us get started. In my case, I've extracted the OpenAI key and endpoint just so I won't have to show any secrets when coding. But let's get started. So this is the OpenAI Studio in Azure. I also have this resource that I created after being granted access. I've created the Azure OpenAI resource in a resource group as everything else in Azure, or just about everything else. And I went to the Azure OpenAI Studio by clicking this. In here, we can see that we have a summarized text and a few examples. And let's just dig into it. So I think we'll need to create a new deployment. And when creating a new deployment, we most likely have to choose what model we're going to use. I haven't read up that much on these models yet, but from my understanding, I think that the DaVinci one or the DaVinci ones are like the most complex intent, cause and effect summarization for audience. Only one deployment is permitted per model. The model with existing deployments are disabled. All right, let's see. Let's call it text 003. I'm not sure what we should call it, but that seems fine. I do think that this one is the one like ChatGPT. And I think code is Codex and like GitHub pilot. But we'll start here, see what happens. So we've created the first deployment, and now we can do things. Let's see. A neutron star is a collapsed core. Well, let's see. The resource does not exist. All right. Perhaps there's a delay. Let's wait for it. Parameters. It's going to be interesting to see. Classify text. Classify the following news article into one of the following categories: business, tech, politics, sport, and entertainment. Entertainment. It's working. That's awesome. And it can generate too long, didn't read. Neutron stars are the smallest and densest stellar objects with a radius of 10 kilometers and a mass of 1.4 solar masses, created when a massive star undergoes a supernova explosion and experiences gravitational collapse. Well, that's awesome. English to French. English. What is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? It never answers me. All right. Perhaps we didn't get the we got the question in French. Translate. Let's see if Google thinks it's correct. French to English. What's the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? Well, it seems to be working. That's awesome. Code view. All right. they give us examples in, I don't know, Python. So let's do it with curl and see if we can implement this using Golang. It gives us a prompt, so that's, well, that seems all right. We should give the JSON object with a prompt, max tokens, temperature, presence penalty. Well, we'll figure this out. I do have the API key, and it seems like we need to set the deployment name. So let's get started. Perhaps we should do something else. Classification, summarize text, classify text. Can we do something like parse unstructured data, summarize text, natural language? I'm not sure which one we should use. Let's just try this. What should we ask? I can't come up with anything fun. Let's see. What is the most popular programming language on GitHub? Let's see. The most popular programming language on GitHub is JavaScript, followed by Python, Java, and HTML. Well, that seems all right. Let's see what happens. It seems like we need to have some kind of deployment here. Azure OpenAI deployment model name. Well, I'm not sure what that's actually. Models, deployments, deployment name. Let's just add that as well. Azure OpenAI deployment name. Azure OpenAI deployment name. And it's well, it's, yeah, sure, required, and default should perhaps be large. So default, what did we call it? Text 003. Help text will be something like the name of the OpenAI deployment. Oh, let's start there. All right. So we've set a default. Let's get started. So it gave us a curl example. Let's start with that. So let's just bring it up here. So we will need to do let's start with creating this object. Yeah, sure. We'll do something like this. We'll do a run function that takes the config. If the run function returns an error, we'll just print the error. Let's hope application returned an error, something like that, and exit. Sure, and then function run, and that will take a config. Yeah, sure, and it returns an error. Yeah, sure. And when we return an error, let's return nil. Let's just make sure that everything is working. Yeah, sure. And make run. All right, we shouldn't set that to required. Make run, and it seems to be working. All right, great. So what do we want to do now? We want to create this object or this struct so we can marshal something to it. Let's see. Struct, let's say type, let's call it OpenAI. Let's just call it request, prompt request, prompt request. That's a struct. We'll have the prompt, that's a string, and JSON, we'll call that prompt. We'll have max tokens, and that's, what could that be? Let's guess that it's an integer. Can max tokens be 60.1? Oh no, it can't. So that's an integer. Int JSON max tokens. Then we have a temp, and that's a float. Let's make that to 64. Yeah. And then we have the frequency penalty. Frequency penalty. What is frequency penalty? It's a float as well. 64. And then we have the presence penalty. I have no idea what these mean, but perhaps we'll figure that one out later. Penalty and presence penalty seems to be a float as well. 64 JSON, and then we have top P. I wonder, top probabilities. Oh, that's awesome. Top probabilities, top P, and top probabilities can be a float. It is a float. All right, float 64 JSON top P, and then we have stop. What's stop? Stop sequence. Ooh, right. And stop sequence is a string. Let's call it a string to begin with. And it should be nullable, so we make it a pointer. And we call it stop. All right. So we now have this. What else do we need? Well, we need some kind of input. So let's we can start with this input. So let's create the request. New request with context. Yeah, sure. And we'll do something like context cancel signal dot notify context dot background signal dot in what do you call it, signal dot stop OS interrupt. Yeah, sure. And we'll defer the cancel, and we'll take the context and the method that will be a get, method get, and we'll take a URL. Let's call that request URL, something like that. Request URL and body strings dot new reader and something like that. Yeah, let's do that to begin with. No, we shouldn't do it like that. We need to create the JSON object, so we need to marshal it. All right. Request URL. Let's figure out the request URL before we do that. That should most likely be a post then. Post, let's verify that. Yeah, if you add data, it should be a post. And we should have the content type and the API key. Yeah, sure. So let's build the URL. So we should have this one already. That's the cfg.endpoint. Then we should have the deployment. That should be cfg.deployment name. That's all right. Then we should create the request data. That's a prompt request. The prompt should be something like this. Let's see if we need. Let's see here. So we need the prompt, the max tokens, that should be 60. Temperature, that should be 0.7. Frequency, that should be 0. Presence penalty, that should be 0. We should have top probabilities, that should be 1. And stop should be 0. All right. Request data, and then data bytes error json.marshal, and we do request data. All right, and if error not nil, return error. And can we just put the bytes here? Data bytes. No, we can't. Bytes dot new reader and data bytes. Right, so we have the request now. If error not equal nil, return error. And then we'll do http dot default client dot do, and we should do the request, and we get a response and an error. But before we do that, rec dot header dot set, and we need to do content type. We set the content type to application JSON, rec header set, and we set the API key. Set the API key to cfg.api. Then we do if error not equal nil, return error. And if we have a response, we should res body res dot body dot right io dot read all res dot body. If we can't read that, return the error. Otherwise, we have the res body, and we should defer res body close. And now we should have a response body. And let's just printf new line, received a response. Hooray! New line, response, new line, res body to string. And let's view. Yeah, sure. Invalid escape. Application return an error. Error parse. String text completion. Oh, that's really weird. What did I do? We have 1, 2. String. What's wrong here? Alright, let's read it. This printf format has unknown verb. Oh, of course. Let's do that again. Alright, perhaps we should remove this one as well. And we should remove this one. Right, unrecognized argument supplied max token. Well, I think it was max tokens. I'm so sorry. Max tokens. Alright, receive a response here. Received a response, hooray! ID completion. Object text completion. Created, timestamp, model, Da Vinci, choice, text, according to, boom, thank you, reason, stop, null, error, code, content, filter error, message, the contents are not filtered, usage, completion tokens 33, prompt tokens 10, total tokens 43. Alright, well, let's marshal this in some kind of way. Let's create a new JSON and format. We're not allowed to format this because ID, object, created, model, choices. Let's figure this out. it's now formatted and we have something. Let's do something with it. So we have the prompt request. Let's create the type prompt response. We'll start with a ID. It's a string, JSON string. We have the object. All right, let's try to make this easier on us. Let's just do something. Object string JSON object created. Oh, that's timestamp. Perhaps. Let's see. Time and JSON created. Is that correct? All right, fine. Model will be a string as well. JSON model. And then we have the choices and usage. Let's start with choices. String. No, that's not a string. We'll call that prompt response choices. And we'll make that an array of prompt response choice and JSON choices. And then we'll do usage as well. And usage is an object of completion tokens. So that will be prompt response usage. All right. Now let's create this one. Struct. We'll have text. That's a string. JSON text. Have the index. Let's say that's an int. We'll have finish response. Finish reason, I'm sorry. And then we have the log probs. And that's, I have no idea. Let's start with a string and see what happens. They most likely have this documented somewhere, but it's fun to just figure it out. And then we have the content filter result. Content filter result. I'm not sure why we receive an error here. But that's fine. We'll just ignore it. I'm not going to create that struct, but we'll just do something like this. JSON. We'll just sheet and do error. Code is a string, JSON code. We'll have a message that's a string, JSON message. All right. And perhaps we do the same with these. We'll just do struct JSON completion tokens prompt tokens JSON and JSON total tokens. All right, now we can unmarshal the response. Let's see what happens. So let's create response prompt equals prompt response. What do we call this one? Data requested. Yeah, res prompt. Fine. Then we'll do JSON unmarshal. We'll take the res body, marshal that to res prompt. If we receive an error, return it. And then perhaps we should do something like yeah, sure. We'll do and a new line, and we'll take the let's verify if length of res prompt valid type. What's going on? How can that be a prompt response? Prompt response choice. Did I forget to Alright, no idea. Choices not equal 1. Turn empty error f choice choices isn't 1 but length of res prompt dot choices. And then we do res prompt dot choices, take the first one and take the text. All right, what happens now? It's not able to parse that to well, fine, we'll take that as an int then. I'm so sorry. According to GitHub's Octoverse report for 2020, the most popular programming language on GitHub is JavaScript. It's interesting that we received different answers. And let's figure out read standard in Golang. I can't remember how to read from standard input. Let's see, reader, read rune. Alright, let's see what happens. Can we get it to prompt us for some kind of text here? Buff IO, turn error, input prompt. Let's do that. Input prompt. What should we ask it? Let's ask it why JavaScript is the most popular. Oh, we should perhaps, yeah, we should most likely boom t printf. Let's say please input, please write prompt for the almighty AI. Yeah, that's good. Clear. Why is JavaScript the most popular programming language on GitHub? JavaScript is the most popular programming language on GitHub because of its versatility and ease of use. JavaScript is high-level interpreted programming language that can be used to create dynamic websites, mobile applications, desktop applications, and more. It is an extremely popular language that is in high demand for. Perhaps we should give it higher max tokens here. Let's give it, give it 500. All right. Did it write something completely different now? Web page build applications and more. It is also widely supported by web browsers, making it a great choice for web development. Additionally, it features a wide variety of open source libraries and frameworks that are regularly updated, allowing developers to easily incorporate new features into the projects. Why is Golang the most popular programming language? Golang is quickly becoming the most popular programming language for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it is a modern language with a modern syntax, meaning it is easier to learn and understand than other older languages. Additionally, Golang has been designed with a scalability, concurrency, and security in mind, making it well suited for use in distributed systems, cloud computing, and other large-scale applications. Finally, Golang is open source and has a large and active community of developers, making it easier for developers to find support and resources when needed. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, almighty AI. Well, I think that's it for today. We've just been playing around with the OpenAI service just to see if it works, and it seems to be completely broken because it told me JavaScript is the most popular language. We always have to ask, what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? This is a reference to the book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. In the book, the answer to this question is 42, which is meant to be a humorous and ambiguous answer. Well, I think they've fixed the AI. Well, I think this will be it for today. Thank you for trying out the Azure OpenAI service with me. Bye bye.